In this hour, as promised, Jeffrey Gural. Jeffrey is a New York real estate developer. He is chairman of the New Meadowlands Racing, and he has proposed building a casino, as you may know, next to the Meadowlands Racetrack. His firm runs Meadowlands Racetrack in East Rutherford, Bergen County, as well as Racino's Tioga Downs in Nichols and Vernon Downs in Vernon, New York. And he is chairman. His firm is Newman, Grubb, Knight, Frank. It's a commercial real estate firm, and they grew to international heights in 2006. Very successful business person, and we are happy to have him here on the show. Jeff Gural, welcome to Talk with a Purpose.
Thanks. Happy to be on.
Well, thanks for coming on, Jeff. Even though, as I mentioned to you, you know you're in somewhat hostile territory here, but we do appreciate your time, and we want to present the other side of the story. The other day in the press of Atlantic City, you had an editorial, and you talked about the benefits of casino expansion to North Jersey. And I got to be honest with you, obviously you stand to gain a lot if this happens. So the discussion, in my opinion, and in other opinions, I'm sure, is that this is kind of self-serving. So would you comment on something like that, sir?
Absolutely not. I'm not as wealthy as Donald Trump claims, but I'm doing fine.
Okay.
And any money I make here, I'm going to give away. Basically, there's a couple of things. I love Atlantic City. I came there with my grandmother. I've been there maybe 6 times since, and every time I come there, I'm shocked at how depressed it is. It's a slum, and Atlantic City can thrive if it does what they've done in Las Vegas. You've got to reinvent yourself and make it a place that people want to go for conventions, for hotels, for parties, beach parties, concerts, nightclubs, good restaurants. The amount of money that Las Vegas gets from gambling is about 35%. And I can tell you, no one is going to go to Atlantic City, especially to the boardwalk hotels, and drive through a slum to get there. This is crazy. This is the greatest deal of all time for Atlantic City. And one casino, my friend Morris Bailey, who I guess, bought resorts for peanuts, is looking to protect that. But you tell me, take a good look at Atlantic City, those people who are listening. When you go in the voting booth, you got to decide, you want to rebuild it? Because we're giving you $200 million a year for the next 15 years. And then there's a sliding scale. So between years 16 and 24, you get 160, 120, blah, blah. And then after 25 years, you get $20 million for the rest of the existence. It's in the Constitution. It's not a legislative thing. The Constitution is giving you $20 million a year forever. This is the greatest deal, and you tell me, how many jobs do you think could be created with $200 million a
Well,
year?
I'm going to ask you that, but I want to make sure I get to everything, because I was going to ask you about that. All right, now, I've lived here for the last 15 years, and before that I lived close by. I've witnessed the ups and downs many of us have here since 2006, and I know you know this because you're a very successful businessman, so you know all this. Since 2006, Atlantic City has lost two-thirds of its revenue, and you know, and I know, and everybody knows that it's a result of casinos in other states.
Absolutely
now,
right.
And you've said now, so I get what you said. I agree with you, and everybody agrees with you about Las Vegas, and we should reinvent ourselves, and we've been talking about that for years, but it hasn't happened. So your premise is right there. But the methodology here, with what has happened with casinos in other states, what makes you think that your casino or another casino in North Jersey is not going to take away more revenue from Atlantic City? Can you explain that?
It will take away some revenue. It'll probably take away 10 to 15% of their revenue. But in exchange, we're giving you $200 million a year to rebuild the city. If you don't think the city needs to be rebuilt, you should vote no. if you honestly think that the way Atlantic City looks today is the way it should look 10 years from now or 20 years from now, then I guess vote no. And if you honestly think that getting $200 million a year isn't going to create jobs, then you should vote no. But if you think about it logically, you've got to vote yes. The customers that are going to come to the Meadowlands are not going to Atlantic City. They're going to Bethlehem. They're going to Aqueduct. They're going to Yonkers. They're going to that's where they're going.
All right, how do you know that, sir? How do you know that? Do you have a study?
Because ask anybody in the business. They'll tell you that 90% of your customers live within 50 miles. So now, if you were doing this, now you know there are casinos all over, and someone says, we should put casinos in New Jersey, and someone said to you, yeah, let's put them all in Atlantic City. Well, let's put them all in the area of the city that has the least population. Someone would say, what are you, crazy? I mean, look at Pennsylvania. You know how much money the casinos in Pennsylvania generate?
Number 2 in the country.
$1.5 billion.
Yes.
You know how much money all the casinos in Atlantic City generate for the state? $200 million. Do you know that the casino that Caesars built 70 miles away from Atlantic City in Chester, Pennsylvania, pays the state of Pennsylvania $125 million?
No, I didn't know that.
What do you think the three of them pay the state of New Jersey? $70 million. They pay $125 million to the state of Pennsylvania, and the three of them combined pay $70 million. This is the biggest joke of all. I mean, they have taken advantage of the taxpayers, and by the way, they needed a low tax rate. It was the right thing to do when Atlantic City started because it was a crapshoot.
Yes.
But now the world has changed, and we need to rebuild Atlantic City. We need to create jobs. Steve Sweeney's got it right. I give him credit for having the courage to do this because he's a Southern guy. But he knows that Atlantic City has to be rebuilt. There's no doubt about it. Everybody knows it. You have a city that's bankrupt. You have a state that has no money. So who's rebuilding it? Fortunately for you guys, Sweeney comes along and says, look, Jeff, I'll do this because we need the revenue and we've got to save horse racing. Horse racing is going to disappear. We employ 14,000 people. In Pennsylvania, they give horse racing $250 million a year subsidy. In New York, they give $175 million. We used to get $30 million a year from Atlantic City. We get nothing. No one wants to race at the Meadowlands. No one wants to race at Monmouth. We're because our purses are half. So everybody worries about the jobs in Atlantic City. What about these poor people? Their chopped liver, plus all the open space. I mean, this is. By the way, there's only one casino opposing this. It's only resorts. The other 4 casinos are on the sidelines because they're smart enough to know, hey, look, if Jeff wins, if he pulls this off, we're going to bid on the casino. So you're strengthening 2 of the 5 casinos down there will be even in a stronger position. It's really frustrating. I love Atlantic City. I mean, I love the boardwalk. If the Revel was open, I would stay there. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately, it met its demise.
When I go to the Borgata, which is beautiful, I don't enjoy going there because I like to walk on the beach.
Right, I agree with you. I agree. We're talking to Jeff Gural. Jeff is the chairman of Newman, Grubb, Knight, Frank, commercial real estate firm. He's a successful businessman. He is the chairman of New Meadowlands Racing. He is proposing building a casino next to the Meadowlands racetrack. And we're talking to him about the viability of that. And, Jeff, you mentioned you're friends with Morris Bailey. He bought resorts, all right?
Yeah, he's a horse guy.
Right,
yeah.
He's a horse guy. And
he's going to put Monmouth out of business if he wins.
Now, the studies have shown, this study has been around. And I heard your comment recently. There was a symposium or some kind of an event in Atlantic City. And you said anybody could get a study to say anything that they pay for it, all right? But this is the study that's out there that we've seen. 3 to 5 casinos will close, and 15,000 jobs will be lost. Now, you're saying you're going to create jobs with your casino or other casinos in North Jersey. They're saying that gaming revenue, this same study, will decline as much as $1.4 billion in Atlantic City.
I'll tell you what. Okay. I'll jump off the George Washington Bridge if that study is accurate. It's the most idiotic study I've ever seen. We did our own study. We think that there'd be about 300 million lost, about 15%.
And
these people are not driving 200. They're not driving to Atlantic City. Traffic is terrible on the Turnpike and the Garden State. They're not. People go for convenience. Where would you go? Let's see. I woke up this morning. I can drive to Atlantic City. It's a 2-hour drive, or I can drive to Bethlehem. It'll take me 20 minutes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that premise. But how come your study that you're telling me now, we've only seen this study, the one I'm quoting
Well, you'll see our study shortly. Hopefully it'll be released next week. Look, I don't know. Hey, somebody did a study and told them to build Revel. How did that work out? Somebody invested $2.4 billion based on a study that says if you spend $2.4 billion and build a beautiful resort, you're going to make a lot of money. They were off by about 90%.
Yeah, they sure were.
I mean, so you're going to believe a study? Think about it. Common sense. Where would you go if you had a choice? I can go over to George Washington Bridge and get to Yonkers in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Or I can drive to Atlantic City. And all I want to do is sit in front of a slot machine for a couple of hours and go home. But what they used to be, I think they used to get 14 million people who took buses to Atlantic City before this competition. Now they're 2 million. You've lost 12 million people. Those people are never coming back. Why not bring them back to New Jersey? And by the way, I'll give you another thing. Who do you think's paying for this campaign of Trenton is bad and all this other stuff?
Probably
paying for it?
Resorts.
New York.
Oh, New York's paying for it.
Oh, not resorts.
Okay.
All being paid for by the casinos in New York, mainly Genting, which is a Malaysian company. So people have a choice. They can lose their money in New York and send it to Malaysia, or they can come back and lose it in New Jersey.
All right,
choice is theirs.
Jeff, you commented earlier about, you said that Atlantic City is going to receive $20 million or something for the rest of their life. We've never heard that, so I don't know.
Well, because you just got to read the law.
Right.
The referendum says that Atlantic City, after 25 years, after all the money, the $3 billion that they'll get, $4 billion, it says they continue to get 4% of the casino revenue in the North forever.
Now, it says that Atlantic City, again, now this Ralph Caputo, assemblyman, came up the other day with this resolution. It's still vague, the tax issue. The tax rate is vague. And I have to ask you, all right, you're a smart businessman. You're very successful. They're talking about a 50% tax rate. Would you enter into a deal like that? Would you enter into something like that said you're going to invest, and I heard that you have to invest $1 billion to build this. You're going to invest that kind of money, and then you're going to give half your profits to Atlantic City? I mean, it doesn't make sense, and it's vague. Could you comment on that?
I'm not giving half the profits. I'm giving 40% goes to Atlantic City, and 60% helps seniors, and a few bucks helps horsemen. But so you're aware, in Pennsylvania, I own a piece of Bethlehem. Tax rate on slots is 55%. We do fine.
Wow. Pennsylvania's doing well with that.
That's why they get $1.5 billion, and New Jersey gets $200 million.
Right. Well, New Jersey.
By the way, in New York, the tax rate's 60%.
Wow.
That's why New York gets $1 billion. Yeah, nobody knows it. Nobody knows it. They don't want anyone to know. The casino companies.
Yeah. Here's the other thing, and a lot of this discussion has been about projections of what your casino or another casino could do in North Jersey. Deutsche Bank last year said it could generate up to $500 million. And I've seen other projections that say $1 billion. So do you see where the numbers come in and the confusion comes in, that somebody projects higher, somebody projects, and Deutsche Bank has no, I mean, they...
Let me ask you a question. Bethlehem, which I own a piece of, we do $500 million a year.
Yes.
Do you think the Meadowlands is a better location than Bethlehem, Pennsylvania?
Absolutely.
Well, I do too. If we don't do twice as much business as they do in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I'll also jump off the George Washington Bridge. You know how much they do at Aqueduct? $900 million.
Boy, those are some good numbers. There's some good numbers.
Yeah, of course, because people go where it's convenient.
All right.
And by the way,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's a win for Atlantic City. I just asked the people, before you walk into that voting booth, you just tell me, you just look around and say, do we want the city of Atlantic City to look like this 10 years from now? Or is it time to rebuild? It's time to rebuild, and $200 million a year will create a lot of jobs. A year. I'm not talking about a week. A year for 15 years, then it goes slightly down, and then in the Constitution you get 4%, roughly $20 million a year, which you can use for promotion. The most important thing is to make sure that the money we send is used properly, and that's important, and I support that, and I'm sure it will be.
Okay, you support it, but I've talked to a lot of community leaders. I'm in the Greater Atlantic City Chamber, and I talk to a lot of people. I talk to a lot of politicians on this show, and they all say the same thing, that based on the history of New Jersey, I mean, and you have businesses in New Jersey, but everybody's saying we may never see a dime of this money, and then we're going to lose.
It's a constitutional amendment.
Okay.
It's not a law.
Okay.
The Constitution says that we have to send this money to Atlantic City to be used to rebuild the city. And it doesn't go to pay pensions, and it doesn't go to pay, for stuff that people, say, oh, it's too expensive, they're not worrying. It has to go for economic development, and that includes rebuilding the town. You got to do it.
So,
trust me.
So
when I go down there and drive through that to get to resorts, I'm shocked. Breaks my heart.
This money then that is sent here has to be used to revitalize, rebuild the town, is what you're saying.
It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution. Okay.
That's correct. It's in the Constitution.
I want to talk to you about jobs, because you know the devastation when 4 casinos closed and another one's about to close. So there's now 5 will have closed since 2014. 8,000 to 10,000 jobs were lost previously. Another 3,000 are going out when Taj closes in 2 weeks. Studies have shown, we're going to go back to that study, and I understand your opinion, but 15,000 jobs potentially could be lost, and you mentioned jobs will be created. Do you have an idea of how many jobs will be created?
We think it's about, if the 2 are built, if Paul Fireman's project in mind, we think it's about 46,000. But do you want to hear something? Listen to this. I own Tioga Downs.
Yes.
We're converting over to a casino in November.
Yes.
I sent my guys down there to see if we could hire some people who I assume are out of work, right?
I know this story. I heard this story, but go ahead.
You know how many people we got?
20. I heard that.
14.
14. I heard 20, yeah.
14 people expressed an interest in coming to work for us in Nichols, New York. 14 people. Think about that.
Yeah. I did hear that, and I thought that was
kind
of sad.
$200 million is going to create a lot of jobs.
Well, I hope you're right, because I mean,
I know I'm right.
People are ready to jump off the bridge here. You're jumping off the George Washington. They're not going to Philadelphia. They're jumping off anything they could find here.
I promise you that if this passes, I'll come down there and I'll be welcomed with open arms. I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it if I thought I was going to hurt the people there. I don't need the money. I really don't.
One other question.
I'm a horse guy.
One other question, Jeff. You mentioned New York. All right. Now, what happens, and this has been a pattern of casinos open in, let's say you open your casino. You know that New York is going to jump on that. They're going to put more casinos in. What's to stop New York casinos from coming and eroding your casino? Because that's been the pattern.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. New York will never put a casino in Manhattan. Okay, that I know for a fact. The theater industry, the restaurants, the hotels, they don't want a casino in Manhattan. The politicians do not want a casino where someone could come out of their office and walk into a casino and lose their paycheck. Those casinos they'll allow Aqueduct to convert over, they'll allow Yonkers to convert over, and they're going to probably put one other. But they're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. And my guess is, between you and I, when they do it, then of course you're going to have to put a casino at the Meadowlands. Nobody's that stupid. And you know what's going to happen? That law is not going to say that let's send half the money to Atlantic City. Because at that point, people are going to say, why are we giving Atlantic City? The hardest part of this is convincing people in the North that we should give all this money to Atlantic City. That's the hardest part. There's no way, guarantee, you ask any politician in New York, there's no chance of there ever being a casino in Manhattan. And by the way, hopefully this guy gets his shopping center built, which I hope he does. That'll help. And under the law, once that shopping center opens, the state has to run a train to the Meadowlands every 30 minutes. So you'll be able to get to the Meadowlands from Penn Station in about 20 minutes. And not only that, think of all the tourists that are in Times Square. My partner Hard Rock has a facility right in Times Square, 43rd and 7th, a Hard Rock Cafe. We're going to shuttle people, except for the 2 hours a day during rush hour. We're going to shuttle people from Times Square right to the Meadowlands. Take about 15 minutes. So okay.
All right, Jeff Gural is with us. Jeff is proposing to build a casino at the Meadowlands in North Jersey, and we've been talking about his side of the story, about why he feels that it is a benefit not only for New Jersey but for Atlantic City. And one other question, you just mentioned the train. I have heard, I've never been to the Meadowlands, Jeff, but people tell me that especially during a football game, traffic is absolutely horrendous.
It's terrible, but we're not allowed to be open during a football game.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, we're not allowed to be open during a football game. That's part of the lease.
Okay.
So we wouldn't be open when there's a football game. And you think about it, a casino doesn't get everybody coming at 1 o'clock. They get everybody coming when they feel like coming.
Right,
you know
exactly,
I mean?
exactly.
So we have a great transportation because they can get 80,000 people there. We're looking to get 2,000 or 3,000 people a day.
Yeah. You make some good points, but, we're all very concerned here about this whole thing.
You should be concerned. But I'm telling you, just think about it logically. $200 million a year. You got to listen to me. Believe me, people. I'm not a gambler. You got to rebuild the town, and then you know what? I think you have a great opportunity to create some of these hotels into condos for retirees. The number of people over 65 is going to double in the next 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Think about it. The guy has a home in Florida 8 months a year, and he comes here for 4 months. It's ideal if it has what it takes to make people say, yeah, I think I'll buy a condo. First of all, it'll be cheap because these hotels, they've all written off the debt. I went there with my grandmother when I was a teenager. That's who took me to Atlantic City. Old people love that. Love to, sit out on the boardwalk, get some, fresh air. It's got tremendous. I'll give you another stat. There's 60 flights a day from Atlanta to Las Vegas. There are none to Atlantic City. It's a third of the time and a third of the cost.
Right.
This is a gold mine.
Well,
we have a gold mine here.
Your point about Las Vegas and the 35% gambling and 65% in non-gambling, that's been talked about here for years.
Absolutely.
And you're talking about revitalizing Atlantic City. But you know something? I mean, I've been here since the days when casino gambling started, and they just rode the gravy train for years. So,
and by the way, worse yet, they took the money and built the other casino instead of competing with it.
Right.
The casino in Philadelphia that competes with you is built with the profits from Atlantic City.
Right.
MGM is building a $1.5 billion casino in Maryland with the profits from the Borgata.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now at least Sweeney is smart enough to say, let's take the profits from the Meadowlands and send it to Atlantic City to rebuild it.
They should have revitalized it, Jeff, years ago. They should have revitalized it years ago. And you coming along with this thought, yeah, it's a nice thought, but I don't think any of us see that happening only because it didn't happen before when there was a lot more money here. Yeah, it's in the okay. Well, we didn't know that.
These guys have the option to take the money and do whatever they want with it. I don't. It's in the Constitution. In order to change that, they would need to go back to the voters and change the Constitution. This is a great deal. Sweeney has pulled off. The guy has done all he cared about is Atlantic City. Every time I talked to him, he said, "We got to protect Atlantic City." So I'm just telling you.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy. I appreciate you coming on this morning here on the show. And you have my personal email. Please keep me informed. as
I
to
will.
what's happening, and we look forward to, well, who knows what's going to happen, but we hope whatever happens, it's for the benefit and for the good of Atlantic City. That's
I'm
all
with
we
you.
hope.
I
Okay.
hope the same thing.
Thanks a
for
lot,
giving
sir.
me a chance. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Appreciate your time.